Welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Today we are talking about prosperity. Now, prosperity, you might remember if you're following these videos every week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about manifesting prosperity, and today we're talking about prosperity, but they're all kind of like overlapping and feeding into each other, kind of like a tapestry that we're weaving. So, uh, welcome if you're here because something about the word prosperity interested you. And I am going to share my screen with you so that you can follow along and have a little visual of some of the things that I have been receiving. If you are unable to join us live, we meet every Tuesday at 10 o'clock virtually, Pacific time, so in the morning. So if you would like to join in these conversations and have these kinds of conversations with a group of people, you're welcome to join us. If not, please feel free to subscribe to this channel and continue to get these videos week after week so that you can enjoy and benefit from these videos. And with that being said, let's get into today. We're talking about opening prosperity consciousness. But before we dive into that, we want to kind of talk about last week's topic, making decisions. What are you waiting for? And I will have a reminder of this video at the end of this video, so you can just easily find it. Because when you watch last week's video, you'll kind of see like, oh, I see how this weaves in and out of things, because we can learn something. And I don't know about you, but sometimes for me, like I am learning, and then I feel like, oh my gosh, so much is going in my head. I need to just sit down and, I don't know, like go outside and veg in front of nature, or maybe veg in front of a movie or something, because it's like no more can go in right now. So go back and look at the previous videos and the previous topics and see what catches your eye. So today, before we can get into prosperity and talking about opening your prosperity consciousness, let's define what prosperity is, because we want to make sure we're all on the same page. Now, a lot of people think prosperity is money. They right away think, oh, that person's prosperous. That means they have a lot of money. But wealth, think about that. It means plenty of something, right? You have a wealth of knowledge. You have a wealth of experience. So prosperity means so much more than just money. Prosperity, when you're prosperous, it means things just keep coming to you, man. It's like you have to put it out there. Like, I want this, and it just keeps coming to you. So you're very prosperous. I want to be healthy. It just keeps coming to you. But for the sake of a definition, let's talk about what prosperity is. So prosperity is doing what you want the instant you want to do it, having everything you need when you need to have it, or being able to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. So that is a feeling. You have to stop and think about that. And if you're like, huh, what did you just say? Pause the video and really think about what I just said, because think about how it feels to have whatever you want, whenever you want it. Remember, it's never about getting something. It's not about outside in, it's about inside out. So be very clear on your definition of what prosperity means to you. Remember, you don't have to want health because you are health. You don't have to want wealth because you are wealth. You don't have to want love because you are love. You don't have to want knowledge because you are knowledge. Everything you need is yours. You have it exactly when you need to have it, always. Now, you may recall that 2 weeks ago, we talked about manifesting prosperity through the art of forgiveness. And, it's really important that you understand how not being able to forgive can block your prosperity. And that's what that topic was about. So if you're holding something against someone, like you're angry with someone, or you're sitting in judgment of them. You know, they just really rub you the wrong way. And there is something that you're just not able to let go of, that can block your prosperity. And that's what we talked about. I will put that at the end of this video too, a link to that. So you'll have both of them, last week's and this one. But that is really a great one to go back and look at too, if you're feeling like, you know what, I've done everything. What's going on? It might be, you know, this forgiveness, the art of forgiveness might be really, really helpful for you. So now that we've covered manifesting prosperity and talked about what that means, today we're going to start talking about opening your prosperity consciousness. And what does that mean exactly? So we are creative beings, but we often believe our circumstances are the extent of what we can have or experience. So we contain ourselves to live in constriction instead of the expansive field of possibilities. Field of possibilities, I believe we talked about 3 weeks ago. And I love this picture where this woman's going, oh, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that, or I never knew that, or now that I know that, that is really huge. Because we tend to look around and we say, okay, I looked at my checkbook and I don't like what I see. And then we think that is our limitation. We learn to live in our limitation. Or maybe we look in the mirror and we have a certain health issue or challenge, and we think like, okay, I just have to learn to live with it. This is my limitation. We always can expand farther than where we are. So when we tell ourselves, this is it, I've got to just give it up and learn to deal with it, we are limiting ourselves. We are limiting our prosperity. Now, imagine if you gave yourself permission to be like a kid in a toy store. Like you're walking around, I want that, I want that, I want that. That's like how the universe is waiting to give you everything that you need. Now, remember, universe, God, Allah, creator, source, whatever your word for it is, you'll see that I call it God here. But really, like, are you asking for what you want? Are you truly asking for what you want? Are you making your expectations known? You know, you are not healthy. I'm going to say this again. You are health. You are not wealthy. You are wealth. You are not knowledge. You are knowledge. You don't need knowledge. You don't need to get knowledge. You are knowledge. You are all of these things. And if you're thinking, like, I don't get this, what are you talking about? How can I be health? I have health challenges, so how can I be health? That's part of opening your prosperity consciousness, and that's what we're talking about today. So you want to think about this garden hose. Okay, the garden hose is not the source of the water. It is a container. It is a container that brings the water to you. The water comes from a source. And just like you and the hose, you are a channel. What you want comes through you. Is that a head scratcher for you? Now, because I know if that statement really has you scratching your head, I feel you. I really do. Because when I first heard that, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, how are things coming through me? How, what, like, okay, isn't my job the source of my income? Or aren't my clients the source of my income? Or isn't my, food choices, aren't my food choices the source of my health? I don't get it. But those are all channels. And when you get this, it really will open your prosperity consciousness. But I'm going to explain it as I became to understand it, because it was a real head scratcher for me as well. Remember, God, the universe, Allah, source, creator, whatever your word for this is, however you define your higher power, that is the source of your supply. That is the source. I use the word God, but before I could do that, I had to get very clear on my definition of God. What does God mean for me? And I'm not going into that with this today's video, today's topic. That's a whole nother topic, a whole nother episode, a whole nother whatever. I don't know. I may come back around to that, but take a moment and just ask yourself, what is your definition or your word for your higher power? What do you call it? Do you call it God, Allah, creator, source, universe? I have a friend who calls it GUS. It's an acronym for God, universe, and source. She feels very comfortable with that acronym because for her, that's all encompassing. So what is your word that you use? And then how comfortable do you feel using that word? Because maybe your word is God, but you have like this knee-jerk reaction to what God means to you. It all plays into each other. Because if you were raised with a very religious dogma where you believe in God as a punishing God and a very judgmental God, it's going to be pretty hard for you to let the universe, God, Allah, source, creator know what you want and have great expectations for your life if you have fear about judgment or retribution or punishment. So you might want to just stop the video right now and make a little note to yourself and say, think about what this means to me. What is my word and what does it mean to me? This is really, really important. I cannot stress this enough. And I can tell you from personal experience that until I got very clear on this whole source of my supply thing and prosperity was really muddled in my mind. It was really hard for me to comprehend. So again, if this is a head scratcher for you, I totally get it. And I would invite you to get very clear on what your definition of that is. The fact that you're listening to this message shows that you are open to your own definition of God. So during our conversations with your higher power, what do they sound like? When you're talking to your higher power, whether it's through meditation, prayer, however you do this communication, what does it sound like? What does it sound like? Like, are you pleading? Oh, please make this happen. Or I don't understand why this is happening to me again. Or I just don't get it. I've been trying and trying and trying. Do you feel very futile in many areas of your life? Because that futility, remember, everything is a feeling. Everything is your state of being. And your state of being is how you feel in any given moment. So if you've gotten into a habit of pleading, begging, crying, feeling less than, feeling judged, feeling unworthy, these are all feelings that block your prosperity and close. You're never closed off from anything, but I would just say like maybe it's not flowing so easily for you. So if you really want to open your prosperity conscious, start making your expectations known. Just look up and say, this is what I want, and then be eager to receive it. Yeah, I'm asking for this. This is what I really want. Have you ever heard a woman say, if my husband really loved me, he would know what I want? Well, that's just freaking ridiculous. Nobody can read your mind. But if you're with the right person and you make your expectations known, that person will do everything in his power or her power to meet your expectations or exceed your expectations, right? So it's the same way with God, source, Allah, whatever your word for it is. How are you making your expectations known? Because if you're pleading and begging and crying and feeling judged and judging yourself, you are in a really primal state of being. And it's very difficult to manifest what you say you truly, truly want when you're in that mode of thinking, feeling, being, and focusing. So if you're not getting the results you want, stop blaming outside forces. Look within your mind. Ask yourself what you've been thinking. and how you've brought it about by limiting your prosperity consciousness. Pay attention to your thoughts and get in the habit of identifying a negative thought and immediately saying, oh, wait, I changed my mind. I was thinking that. I don't know where my mind was going, but that's not what I want. I want to change that. But you have to do it with loving yourself, like, not yelling at yourself, not judging yourself, just saying, oh, I noticed that thought, cancel that, like that really isn't how I want my day to go, and then love yourself for it. And the way to do that, because sometimes we can get really mired down in that primal state of being where we just feel like nothing is possible for us. And the way to step out of that is to change your negatives to positives. And if you want support with that, visit my website at masteringyourbeliefs.com. Get your free resource, Turning Your Negatives into Positives in 4 Easy Steps. That will help you start this whole process and support if that's something that you need to work on. And next, you must determine that you completely believe that everything is energy and that we are all part of that energy. We are all part of the same source. We are all part of the one. Is that a head scratcher for you? I mean, can you accept that? Do you believe that? That you are part of the one? We are all part of the one. I am you, you are me. Everything is part of the same energy. Because if you don't believe that, or if this is the first time you're hearing it, this is an invitation for you to open yourself up to it more. Because if you're going to really open yourself up to prosperity consciousness, you want to open yourself up to understanding, believing, comprehending that we are all part of the one energy. And positive affirmations are spiritual truth, even if they seem like a factual lie. Now, think about that. If we are all part of the one, and you know that everything is perfect, but you are experiencing something that you would name not perfect, you know that affirmations can bring you out of it. But if your affirmations are being done in a way where you feel like, yeah, I'm just saying things, they're just words, I'm just putting it out there, and your feelings don't match what the outcome that you would like to have would be. Like if you were saying, you know what, I really want an ice cream cone, and you poof got an ice cream cone in your hand, you'd be like, all right, and you would enjoy that ice cream cone. But if in order to get that ice cream cone, you had to say affirmations like, I have an ice cream cone right in my hand, my ice cream cone is right here. If you didn't believe it was going to manifest for you, you would be like, yeah, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. So when your ego mind is telling you that you're lying, that you're saying words and they don't make sense, your affirmations might seem like a waste of time. But remember, the spoken word is so powerful. So positive affirmations are spiritual truths. That means that if it's something that you really desire and it's divinely meant for you and all involved, you're not wishing something bad would happen to someone in order for you to have something that you think is good. If it's divinely meant for all to prosper, that is your spiritual truth. So affirmations, positive affirmations, are spiritual truths. So even if they seem like a factual lie, and this is where you get into the knowing of living spiritually versus physically. This is the difference between being and doing. And we covered that a couple weeks ago, doing versus being as well. But remember, positive affirmations are spiritual truths, even if they seem like a factual lie. And that simple sentence was like a lightning bolt moment for me when I realized, whoa, that makes so much more sense, because you have to know what you don't want before you can know what you do want. Because knowing what you don't want is how we understand what we are not. And what we are not is pain, suffering, lack, or sadness. We are creations within the mind of God. Our negative mental state is a spiritual illness and forces our prosperity consciousness into forced inactivity. And opening our prosperity consciousness, brings our mind out of inactivity. So when your mind is out of inactivity, when you are open to prosperity consciousness, you start thinking about, yeah, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe I can have this. Maybe I could experience this. Now you see, you start being instead of trying to figure out how to make it happen. Your spoken word has power, and how you use this power matters. I want you to think about the word matter in energy, when we're talking about energy. So if you have something that's not in physical form and it's still in that form of matter, then it's going to shift form to create something that that's tangible, something that you can hold, something that matters, something that comes to fruition. This is what your words are doing. Your words are really powerful. So you want to think about the words that you're using. They matter. It's like you're putting a wish out into the universe constantly with the words that you're using. So what are the words that you're using? Are you talking about doom and gloom and fear mongering and what's going on in politics and trying to find out all the reasons that life sucks? Or are you really talking positive affirmations? Are you really talking possibilities? What's possible? What's out there for you? When I first started reading the teachings of metaphysical teachers who taught in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they always referred to pain, suffering, lack, or sadness as needing a treatment. And I never really understood that. I thought maybe it was a word that was kind of antiquated that we no longer use anymore. And I mean, I kind of had I don't know, a basic understanding of what they were saying, but it didn't make sense to me until I really understood that, oh, okay, so when we are feeling pain, suffering, lack, discontent, sadness, something within us that we say we don't want, that is a spiritual illness. Remember, we're talking spiritual versus physical. So if it's a spiritual illness, what happens when you have an illness? You get a treatment for it. When your skin isn't the way you want it, you get a treatment for your skin. When your health isn't the way you want it, you get a treatment for your health. It's the same thing. This is spiritual. So when you have a spiritual illness, you want a treatment for that. Knowing that really will open your prosperity consciousness. It really will. So stop and think about that. When we believe in these things, we have created spiritual illness. So when you believe in something that is not you, meaning anything that you do not desire, then you are creating a spiritual illness. And opening your prosperity consciousness is a way of creating a treatment for yourself, for what you're looking for. When you put that prosperity consciousness into effect, and you're telling yourself, this is what I want, this is what I desire, this is what I deserve, and you really believe it, and you really are feeling it with all of your being, you're putting that into the field of possibilities. You're putting that into your mind, and your mind has to bring you what you want. It has to. That's the way it works. So what you expect to receive is what you're going to receive. You have a receiving mind, and by its very nature, it acts as law. So what law are you following? So what are the rules of prosperity? Expanding prosperity consciousness is like plugging yourself into the universe when your charge gets low. You don't realize you're walking around being very dim-witted until you plug yourself in. And this is a continual, constant, over and over and over process. It's not a one and done thing. Like your phone starts to get dim, it needs a charge, you plug it in, yay, it lights up, it's bright. we are the same way. And you don't plug your phone in one time and say, okay, it's going to be charged forever. It's not a one and done charge. Same holds true for us. You must find a way to plug yourself in to prosperity consciousness. You do that by maybe watching videos like this one, or reading books, or attending groups where other people are practicing this. This is how we plug ourselves in. We must experience the unwanted to know what we want. But when the unwanted shows up, we've been conditioned to believe the unwanted is the manifested reality. But it's simply the universe posing a question to us. It's asking us, is this what you want? Or did you want something different? And instead of freaking out and saying, this isn't what I wanted, this isn't what I wanted, this is your opportunity to make your desire known. But instead, we put all our attention, energy, and focus on the unwanted, and the universe takes that as a confirmation of our desire. We've been so conditioned not to make our wants known that we don't even realize how much we limit ourselves. Now, as you're listening to this information, take some time and ask yourself what you believe about making your wants known to the universe. I mean, are you really explicit? Do you really make your wants known? And when I was working on this, it reminded me of something that happened quite a few years ago. My grandson, who is now 25, when he was like about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, he and I we love to go out to eat together. So I was teaching him how to order himself, so place his order with the server so that he felt confident to sit down and, look at the server and say, I will have XYZ. He always ordered a plain hamburger, just meat in a bun. And I said, so make your expectations known, let them know, feel confident in yourself to say, I would like a hamburger and I don't want anything on it. I just want the meat and a bun. And so he got better at making his wants known. And one time he decided that he wanted to order dessert. So he asked for a hot fudge sundae. And of course he was, young and cute, and the server was just all over that. And she was like, sure, bud, how would you like it? And he said, I would like vanilla ice cream with hot fudge and whipped cream, no nuts, and 2 cherries on top, please. He made his want very explicit. He expected that to come to him. He had visualized, like, this is what he wanted. So the server, she thought he was, like, oh, he's so cute, I'm going to go do this. So she went back to the kitchen and she brought his hot fudge sundae and she set it down in front of him. And both myself and the server, we could see, like, the minute she set it down, his whole, like, demeanor just kind of went in, like, oh. And so she asked him, she's like, is everything okay? Is this not what you wanted? Isn't this what you asked for? And he looked down at it, and the cherries had slid down to the side. And he said, well, yes, thank you, but I was expecting the cherries to be on top. That's all. Now, he wasn't being mean or rude or anything like that. And it was very interesting to us how he had this visual of exactly what he wanted it to look like when it got to the table. That's how he was expecting it. And today in the dojo, when I shared that story, one of the women said she knows exactly what that means because she went to a Mexican restaurant and she ordered fajitas and she was expecting, like, the server to bring it to the table, and she wanted to hear that sizzling of the meat and the veggies on the tray. And she just could anticipate that, ooh, this is what it's going to smell like. This is what it's going to sound like. And so when they put it in front of me, this is what it's going to taste like. But yet, when they brought it to her and put it down, there was no sizzle. So she knew that it did not come to her piping hot. So all of her expectations were diminished because it didn't exceed her expectations. The way she expected it to arrive to her did not happen. And therefore, she did not enjoy it. So how many of us feel confident enough to make our expectations known? Send it back to the kitchen. Let them know, you know what? I really wanted to receive it sizzling and, with that smell. My grandson really wanted that visual with the cherries on top. Think about that. It might not make such a difference to you when you're thinking about food, but what about how you are expecting your finances or your health or your wealth or your relationships or your career? What are you expecting? Do you put those expectations out there and let the source of your supply know, hey, this is what I'm expecting and this is what I expect to receive, or better? Because sometimes we'll get way more than we ask for, because we only know to ask for a little bit, right? Like we only know to ask for the crumbs when the universe is really wanting to give us the whole bakery. We have this ability, but we minimize ourselves if we don't open ourselves up to prosperity consciousness and know that we can truly have what we say we want. So think of it like a waiter that's bringing you what you want, much like the server who brought my grandson his hot fudge sundae. You know, they're bringing you something from the kitchen and they're asking you if this is what you want. And you knock it to the floor and you say, no, no, no. And you jump up and down on your seat and scream at everyone in the restaurant. And you start turning over tables and throwing a tantrum instead of simply saying, oh, no, thank you. You know, I just expected the cherries on the top. But when we are throwing tantrums and we're saying, no, 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 this isn't what I wanted, we're putting all of that energy out there and we can't help but attract back the unwanted. All we have to do is say, oh, I recognize these negative thoughts, or I recognize that I did not make my expectations known, that I was not explicit in what it was that I wanted. Because, you know, when we're throwing tantrums, you're just going to have more servers trying to bring you what you want because the customer's always right. Correct? Correct. You know, they're like, I don't know, what does she want? And they're bringing you this, but they're bringing you more of what you don't want because basically they're just reacting to you and your negative energy. That's the same that happens with the universe. That's the same that happens when we're putting our wants out there and we're not getting what we want. First of all, it could be lazy thinking. Maybe we're not really putting all of our thoughts, you know, taking enough time to really say, you know what, this is really what I want. This is really how I want it to happen. Or something better, of course. But when we're not explicit, it's like the wife saying, well, if my husband really knew what I wanted, he would make it happen. No, you have to let people know because no one's in your mind but you, right? You have this vision. One of the women in the dojo today, she had this vision of how she wanted her fajitas to arrive to her. The server could not have known that. The server could not have known that she heard the part of the joy was hearing the sizzling on the plate and the aroma that that sizzling creates and all of the expectation. What are you putting out there to the universe? You know, the universe is either going to bring you what you wish for or something better, or it's going to just keep trying to placate you. The choice is yours. You really can open up your prosperity consciousness. When you practice telling God, the universe, Allah, source, whatever your word for it is, it really is so very kind of you to want to please me. And I appreciate all of your efforts, in spite of the fact that I have not been very clear about my expectations. Let's change that, shall we? Own it. If you're getting something that you did not want, own it. But don't get down on yourself. Don't yell at yourself. Don't say, oh my gosh, I did something wrong, and then go into judgment mode. You know, step out of that primal state of being. Primal state of being is that fight, flight, or freeze. Step out of that because you are a powerful being. And when you are in a powerful state of being, you receive more of what you want or something better. You know, to quote the beautiful and talented Jane Fonda, she said, it's okay to be a late bloomer as long as you don't miss the flower show. That, when I heard her say that, I was like, oh yeah, that is so true. Think about that. Don't beat yourself up on being a late bloomer. You know, it's like looking at your flowers that you plant. You plant the seeds in the ground. You don't scream and yell at them every day or dig them up trying to figure out if they're still growing. You just say, okay, I planted these. I know they're going to bring me flowers in the most opportune time, however long it takes, I am going to enjoy this beauty. But you don't have to even wait until the buds start to bloom, right? You already are anticipating what you're going to receive. You just know these seeds are going to grow, they're going to be flowers. You have faith in that. And that kind of faith is really opening your prosperity consciousness. It truly is. You know, the more I do this work, the more I realize that many of us were taught the wrong way to ask for things, or we were taught that it's wrong to ask for things. We're taught, be satisfied with what you have. That's not what you want. Like I could have said to my grandson, hey, don't say anything. If your Sunday didn't come to you the way that you wanted it, don't say anything. Or if it would have arrived with nuts, and if I would have said to him, just don't complain, scrape the nuts off. How many of us do things like that? Instead of sending things back and getting it the way that we want so that we are perfectly satisfied, we have been taught, not to make noise, not to be the squeaky wheel, just be satisfied, just sit back, relax, don't say anything. But we deserve to have life the way we want it. And if we're not clear on how we want it, we deserve to get very clear. I invite you to get very, very clear. What is it that you want? Do you feel confident enough to ask for it? Because we have to remember, the people who taught us how to ask for things were probably never taught about prosperity consciousness or how to open their prosperity consciousness. So now that I've shared that visual with you, what are you committed to do? Like, how are you going to expand your prosperity consciousness? There's so much to unwrap in this video, and I love teaching this kind of stuff. So if you want support with anything like this, visit me at masteringyourbeliefs.com. Poke around, get that free resource I talked about. I have other resources there. Whatever calls to you, it will be exactly what you need in the moment. It'll be exactly what you're asking for. Remember, only you know what's going on in your mind. Only you can determine, hey, is this really what I wanted or am I settling? Only you can open your prosperity consciousness. I hope you really enjoyed this topic, this conversation, this segment. And feel free to poke around, look at the other videos that I have on here. I post a new one every Tuesday. Subscribe, leave some comments. You just never know what your comments might do for someone else who's watching the video. It might be exactly what they need to hear. We are all part of the collective. And when we watch this kind of information, read this kind of information, receive this kind of information, when we feel confident enough to comment and say, wow, this is what I got out of it, you just never know how you could inspire someone else. So this is me walking in my light. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller saying ciao for now.